18 Whitfield Court, and it'll be presented by Wendy in her debut presentation as new officer in our team. Wendy.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. Just going to try and find my presentation. Sorry, Tim. It's gone. Oh no. Oh, it got, sorry. Always IT. Sorry, bit of technical hiccup. The application site is sited between 16 and 20 Whitfield Court, which are both single-storey bungalows. The land is sited to the rear of DuPont Road, which is to the west, and Sydney Road to the east. Vehicular access to the site is via an undercroft access from Kingston Road to the north. There are a number of pedestrian accesses via alleyways from DuPont Road and Sydney Road. Just trying to enlarge this to show members. These are the pedestrian accesses. The proposal is for a single-storey, 3-bedroom dwelling house with an outbuilding providing ancillary accommodation. The unit comprises 1 double bedroom and 2 single bedrooms. The proposal site is separated by an alleyway from the rear boundaries of properties fronting DuPont Road and will be separated by an access road from the rear boundaries of properties fronting Sydney Road. Oh, sorry, I've messed up. Zoom out, sorry. Got it. So the scheme incorporates, so I just want to show you the site as part of the presentation. So this is the land, the application site with the access way to the rear of Sydney Road. So the scheme incorporates 1 parking space to be sited in the forecourt area to the north of number 12. And it's going to incorporate a rapid charging point as part of the proposal. And to ensure the scheme does not increase parking stress in the surrounding streets, the applicant has agreed to restrict the future occupants from access to parking permits. And the dwelling house and outbuilding have been designed with a flat roof, comprising extensive green roof and a bat box. And externally, it will be constructed in render and timber cladding, which draws on materials evident in the locality. The scheme achieves a carbon reduction of approximately 20% through the incorporation of PV panels. However, the applicant has confirmed they can also incorporate air source heat pump if required. And the scheme incorporates a bat box to improve on biodiversity and ecological measures within the site. Overall, officers consider this application to be policy compliant. Thank you. I'm really sorry about messing up with the presentation.
You didn't mess up at all. No, super. Thank you. So we have no speakers down for this item. So we'll move directly on to questions from colleagues. So we have first round Dan, Susie, and myself. Dan.
Can we condition the air source heat pump, please, so that it makes a greater contribution towards this climate change commitments?
Yes, we can. And actually, the condition does.
Oh, Wendy, I just pause you there. We'll do them around to 3, and then that way we get everyone in. But no, it's. I think Dan's already thinking of his second question because he's happy. You gave the game away too soon. Susie.
I was also thinking about the air source heat pump. I was thinking about it from the position of noise, because these buildings are half a metre away from the fences on either side. So if you do condition an air source heat pump, can it also be conditioned to be quiet? That was one. The other one was simply that, and broadly, I'm in favour of this. My only concern, and I don't know whether, I mean, thank you for your reply to my question, but I think this has gone to everybody else. Given the close proximity, this is being sort of shoehorned into a little gap. I do think privacy for the neighbours is terribly important. So I'm very much in favour of the condition which you suggested, to include sighting height and external appearance so that, and for this to be maintained, so that that privacy is protected. I think it's essential given the timeliness of the way this is going to be situated. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. And I think, so my question would actually be more about some of the logistical side of things. We know this is a small site. It's really important in our borough to build on small sites because that's the nature of how our borough is made up. We don't have many sort of large former industrial sites or fields or such sorts to build on. And sometimes we wouldn't want to do that in the first place. So it's great that they're utilised and underutilised land. I'd be really keen to understand some of the, like I said, logistical points of that entry and egress point and how in their construction management approach, they're going around that. So that would be quite helpful there. And I think, yeah, I'll save another question for another round. So rounded up, Dan's point about air source heat pumps, which we know already, but probably conditioning a quiet version, no doubt there is ones on the market. And if you can expand further on Susie's point, I know it's an offline conversation about the privacy and about what the condition there and how that would work. And then my point about the construction management approach and how this site could work, given it's small, but you know, the entry and exit points.
Chair. So with regards to the air source heat pump, actually condition 20, whilst it's titled PV panels, it does actually incorporate requested details of site and siting of the air source heat pump. And I hope that's satisfactory. And with regards to noise, what we can do, we could add a condition requiring compliance to noise. So rather than submitting, all can submit details, all compliance. And with regards to privacy, we can amend condition 5 as suggested in the mod sheet to include details, to include height as well as the hedgehog tunnels.
Could you just, sorry, I know you're going to come on my question about construction management approaches, but could you just expand for the benefit of sort of those who may not know what that condition would do? The previous one with privacy, condition 5. Oh,
condition 5, yes. So condition 5 requests details of walls and fences to be submitted as a pre-commencement condition. So what we can do is no development shall take place until details of all boundary walls or fences to be submitted. And after that sentence, we can say details to include height, sighting, height, and external appearance.
And sorry, yeah, my question about, yeah.
And with regards to construction, I think the highway officers and the transport officers acknowledged is quite a restricted site. So has recommended to condition construction logistics plan. At this stage, I'm unable to comment on how they are proposing to construct the development without sight of the CLP. So that's why we have conditioned it, and I hope that members find that satisfactory. Thank you.
No, thank you. Do we have another round? So Susie, and we'll move to comments afterwards.
Very short. It's an exchange that we had, and I think everybody here is probably in agreement. Given the length of these fences, you already indicated that we can condition hedgehog tunnels. Given that this is a bungalow, maybe too low for swifts, I don't know. And also, are we going to condition bat boxes? Yeah, okay. Marvelous. Thank you.
Can I have a question? It's a silly question because my knowledge of these birds and bats is not as it should be. But do they contradict having both birds and swift boxes in a sense of from an ecological perspective? I don't know. But basically, if we've got bats, it works. If it doesn't, then fine. Yeah, if we don't know, then I think what we're saying is just keep it at the bat boxes. Are we saying that?
At the moment, we have bat boxes and hedgehog tunnels. I think that's probably fair because swifts don't generally come down that low, so it's probably the smallest loss.
Again, super. Cool. Any comments to add? Anyone want to speak on this? Cool. Michael?
I like it.
Well, we'll see how you vote. Yeah, I mean, so I think I just want to round up some of the stuff we've had over in the mod sheet and the questions and technical brief and my own sort of subjective view. This is really interesting use of the site, and really great work done by Wendy and officers to bring about the applicant to this position. And there's loads of key features which normally we would condition, but they're put in as standard. So that is quite helpful as well. And may more of these type of things come, hopefully, you know, I may be in a minority, but hopefully maybe a bit higher and a bit more affordable housing in there. But let's see, make great use of the small sites we do have. So if we move on to, have we got any conditions to amend or suggest further? No?
I think we're agreed on hedgehog tunnels,
Yep.
bats, air source heat pump, subject to noise.
Yep.
That's it. That's the list.
Cool.
That's
So
in addition to what the officer has already extensively put together.
amazing. So if I can call a vote then on the recommendation we've had on a paper with the air source heat pump condition defined, because the rest is already in there. Can I have those voting against? Voting against?
None, Chairman.
Not voting?
None, Chairman.
Voting for?
8, Chairman.
Thank you very much. And the scheme is passed. So thank you very much, Wendy. Fantastic, successful first outing. So we're going to now move on to the enforcement item. We have Raymond here as well in the flesh.
Thanks, Chair. Hello, everyone in the committee. And it's not too late to say Happy New Year. And it's Chinese New Year this Sunday, so it's not too late. Happy New Year. I don't have a presentation. It's just a quick update on the enforcement summary. So since the last committee, we had 20 new enforcement cases. And in terms of formal action, we served an enforcement notice at land at 129 Pelham Road in Wimbledon. It generated some interest. It was historically originally built as access for garages and car parking for residential housing at the back of Russell Road. Over the course of the planning history, it showed that it turned into local businesses such as B1 use, workshops. So local businesses used it, and eventually into the lawful use, which is a B1 office. So generally, the staff car parking was parking there up until recently. It somehow changed hands over the last year. Different leaseholders or different freeholders, and NCP took control of that land and operated it as a commercial car park, operating from at least 6 a.m., 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. It generated a lot of objections and a lot of disruption towards residential amenity. We got the officer to investigate and told them to cease the use. They argued that it was car park anyway. It had commercial previous use, but we argued that it was conditioned to be only like a workshop, and there was conditioned to only operate between 8 a.m. into 6 p.m. So we could control who was coming in and out of the site and at what times they could come in and out of the site. But NCP disregarded the fact that, you know, what the lawful use was, and felt that because it was a car park, they could still operate as a commercial car park with unrestricted access, operation hours, and it was unattended. So NCP then, I think they sold the lease or changed ownership to another company, and then they still operated as a unattended, unrestricted car parking, and they didn't want to submit an application, and they continued to operate as a commercial car park. And then we served the notice last week on that, and the notice is a change of use, basically, material change of use to a sui generis commercial car park. And the reasons for that is it's happened within the last 10 years. It created the residential amenity issues through noise and disturbance and increase of potential crime. And the third reason was that because it's a predominantly residential area with very restricted parking on the street, that when you've got unrestricted vehicle movements in and out, you've got limited visibility split coming out. So it's a highway issue, especially if how tight and how narrow the roads are down there. So that was that. In terms of informal action, we had a complaint about sort of damaged telecom boxes around Middleton Road and Lillishall Road area, and we managed to negotiate that with Virgin Media, and they eventually fixed it, and it looks so much better now. So we were able to do that without having to serve any notice. And what wasn't on this report was that we served a enforcement notice for roller shutters at 52 and 54 Wimbledon High Street, and it's a Wimbledon Village conservation area. They submitted an application for change of shop use, but we refused the roller shutters, which is absolutely hideous and it's not acceptable. So we served a notice at the back straight after the refusal of the permission. So they, rather than them appealing the refusal, and then we served the notice after Pins dismissed it, and then we served the enforcement notice, and then they still got the chance to appeal the enforcement notice. We felt that we should serve the notice straight afterwards, so they could just appeal on the enforcement notice under ground A, which is effectively the same as appealing against the refusal of the planning permission. So that's just a summary of the update since December.
Thank you, Raymond. John wants to add one or two cases, and no doubt we'll have a vote of thanks from the committee as well for all the efforts that you've not got on the paper. And there's a few questions from Simon.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, yep.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to say as well, we do have instances where, unfortunately, we serve enforcement notices or we make agreements with people who've done unauthorized development, and they don't follow up on the actions that we expected. So, for example, we've got a painted wall on a restaurant on the side of 156 Merton Hall Road. We agreed that that would be removed. We did invite an application for advertisement consent for that particular painting. The landowner didn't want to do that, so we thought that would be removed by now. That's not happened, so we go into more formal proceedings. We've got an enforcement notice served at 162, 164 Hartfield Road, Raymond, that's not being complied with. So, you know, then we start legal proceedings essentially and take these matters to court. So we're having to get a bit more serious about a couple of issues as well. It takes time, but we're moving into that territory.
Thank you. And again, I think it just shows more the importance that the team are placing on this, and the great work that's coming from that. Simon, and then Jill.
I just wanted to say thank you for John and his team for their work on this. I think virtually all the examples are in my ward, as it happens. The land at Pelham Road is quite extraordinary. Anybody, you get to it, I never knew it was there, through what I understand from Wendy is called an undercroft, had a big pair of gates. I don't think anybody wasn't local knew it was there, and suddenly they found a car park, and there's been some very good and excellent urgent action from the officers. I imagine at some point we'll have a planning application for making use of the land, which will be interesting to see what they were posing for it. So just to say, excellent work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Jill?
Yeah, wonderful that it's all happened in your ward, but I do know that there's been actually some very recent activity in the Cricket Green ward, and for those who always tune into these sessions that live in my ward, I am grateful for this team who are extremely responsive, helpful, and forward-thinking. And I know there's a lot of activity going on some important bits of work in Cricket Green Ward, and I am very encouraged by your leadership and activity. So thanks from me and my ward.
Amazing. I'll bring John in and because he may want to come back on other comments, but Ed and then Susie, and then we'll move on back up to the planning appeal decisions.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Raymond, for your work up to date. I just wondered if you had any update on 7 Watery Lane. You might miss them.
Yeah, I did speak to Luxby, the case officer, about that. She's still discussing with the complainants about the measurements and the wall, and I think there was a lot of complaints about noise before a certain time, and it's, although we try our best to try to catch them in the act, trying to get there before 7 a.m. in the winter is quite difficult. But so we sent them a diary sheet, a template, so if they could just fill it in and return it back to us, and then we've got a log of what's exactly going on to make it expedient to take formal enforcement action.
I think it was more about also what was going on actually with the property, because they had permission to convert the garage, but the whole house, they've taken the staircase out and all the internal walls on the back of it.
Why don't we take that as an action after this and get more further detail? But, you know, clearly Raymond's on the case. Susie, final point.
Mine is simply another endorsement of what is obviously a great deal of very hard work, for which we are all, I'm sure, extremely grateful. And from a ward perspective, although it's slightly outside my ward, I look forward to the removal of the deeply ugly roller shutters in the village. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Praise all around, Raymond. Thank you so much. And yeah, we'll sort the issue out afterwards. Yeah. And just concluding, and John, you may want to wrap up any comments here on the planning enforcement. Any reflections on the planning appeal decisions?
Actually, Chairman, I think Stuart's looked at the appeal decision. It was for, so the words, yeah, there is an appeal decision in the report, Chairman. It wasn't one actually that came before the Planning Applications Committee, so there's nothing really to advise members on in here. In fact, it predated us as officers, and looking back, it probably wasn't our greatest decision. And so having reviewed it, it's a minor issue, but we will not be adopting that approach again for that type of issue.
Amazing. That's good to know. And unless there's any other business, I call this meeting to an end. Thank you very much.